Stonks are going up. Hello, everyone. Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends. We're here on the main, but honestly, it doesn't matter. We're going to be talking about when it is the best time for you to invest your Raid resources. Now, Raid really is a game of resource management. You've got your energy to manage, your silver to manage, your gems to manage, your books to manage, your shards to manage, and I could go on and on and on. But there are certain times when it is better for you to spend some of these resources. Now, sometimes you want to wait for the optimal time because the optimal time is going to give you the best bang for the buck. Other times you may decide that an unoptimal time is still better because the return for you is something that you don't want to wait on. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to be talking about things from pulling your champions from the fragment vault to when you should be spending your shards to possibly when you might want to spend some of your money in the game to, of course, when you want to run different dungeons, events, and other stuff like that. Let's talk about it. So first of all, I mentioned things such as fusions, your fragment fusions, stuff like that. You generally are going to want to make the most use of these by saving them for things like champion chase events or CVC events. A brand new legendary is worth 30,000 CVC points, which is a huge amount, and that can be the difference between your clan winning and losing a CVC event. If you care about CVC, that's a great time to do that, and particularly a personal reward CVC is probably a good time to pull one of these champions. That said, you also could use them during, again, a champion chase, which is where you're getting, based off of the rarity of the champion you get, those points can be very, very influential as well. In fact, here's the cute thing about that. It's 500 points for a legendary, but it's 250 points for an epic, 350 points for a void epic, and 650 points for a void legendary. So honestly, for champion chases, sometimes I find that saving the epics is actually a better value than the legendaries, particularly because legendaries give you tons of points for CVC. The epics are going to give you maybe 4,000 points and possibly less if they're not a brand new epic. So legendaries, very good for CVC, pretty good for the champion chases. You know, epics, on the other hand, they're really, really good for those champion chase points, but they're not necessarily great for the CVCs. The other thing, though, to keep in mind is how impactful is that champion going to be? Just for example, we'll use Donnie right here. On my free to play, I have finished Faction Wars, and I'm not really worried about my Lizardman faction at the moment. If I was struggling with my Lizardman faction and Donnie was going to be the difference between me getting Lydia and not getting Lydia, I would probably aim to pull Donnie a lot earlier than I might otherwise do so. I'll probably still try to make sure I pull him for at least some kind of event, because even if he's not going to get me fragments for a champion that I needed, if he gets me a legendary book, for example, or some relic fragment materials, or something else that would be useful, that's 500 points that was still useful on the account to pull. If I'm going to get Lydia, and I wouldn't have done it without pulling Donnie, sitting on Donnie for weeks, maybe even months in some cases, is not helping my account out, because I am losing out on not only having a great champion on my account, but I'm also losing out on possibly getting Lydia much earlier, which is a huge swing for this account as well. That's all theoretical. It's not the case in this particular account, but that's the type of thinking you should be doing on some of these really, really big resources, such as these champions here from your fragments. On the other hand, if you look at the fusions right here, these are basically fodder for champion chase points. So I've got, as you can see, I've got a couple of these guys, I've got one of those, and one of those. So I can fuse a Broadmaw, and honestly, during a champ training, I probably should train up all four of these things just to make sure I can fuse a Broadmaw pretty easily, although getting a 3-star champion to 3-star ascended is not really that difficult. Saving up some of these champions can be very useful. So these are things you might want to hoard a little bit. Yes, it's very easy to want to use your rares for food, particularly, honestly, oftentimes void rares, because you run low on void potions otherwise in some cases. It really can depend on your account and where you've been spending your potions lately, or your brews, I guess, is probably more appropriate. Saving these things can be helpful, and that's another way you can save shards, which can be a great resource for all kinds of things. But if you can save them in champion chase events, then maybe you'll be able to use them on a more impactful event later on. Speaking of shards, Shards, another example of a resource that you should try to save whenever you can. Now, we've got plenty of mystery shards here, and I love building up a huge crack of mystery shards. If I am under 1,000, I feel like I don't have a lot of mystery shards. How do you get these mystery shards? Honestly, the easiest way is to just run campaign and to buy them from the regular merchant shop. Regular merchant shop regularly sells a couple of them. They're 5,000 each. It is cheaper buying mystery shards than it is buying champions from the shop, which is honestly really strange. Yes, you're getting a specific champion, so you kind of know what you're going for, but is there anybody looking for a specific common? Probably not. So it doesn't make a lot of sense that at least the commons are more expensive than mystery shards, particularly when they can be, uncommons or possibly even a rare. Hoarding a bunch of mystery shards is great. I use 10 of these whenever I'm doing my daily events most of the time. Every once in a while I'll do 3 ancient shards because you get ancients commonly enough that the offhand chance of getting like a progressive chance out of just pulling 3 ancient shards is not the worst thing in the world, especially if it is a very, very impactful champion or it could be something interesting for CVC. As far as the actual shards are concerned, 2x events are generally your friend, but that doesn't mean you won't be pulling off of those 2x events on occasion. When should you be pulling off of a 2x event? Well, a summon rush is an event you want to pull shards for, where pulling shards is not going to be 2x, but is still going to be very valuable. And that is getting you a guaranteed legendary champion or other guaranteed stuff from the summon rush event. So you're looking for pulling shards for the summon rush event, and that is where the value comes in. That is actually why I generally never really have a big problem with people deciding to skip 2x sacreds, because sacreds, the rates are not great, mercy is not great, and as a result, you're honestly better off saving these for points for special events because they are worth a ton of points for special events versus pulling them on a 2x, in my opinion, even on an earlier game account. At some point in time, an early game account, when epics mean a ton for you, yeah, go ahead, yeet them. It makes a lot of sense. But as you continue to advance your count and those epics mean less and less for you, sacred shards lose their value as shards and gain their value as a general commodity. Primal shards are another interesting option here as well. Generally, you really don't want to pull these off of a 2x mythical event, but if you're a spender, for example, these are the cheapest value way to use them for summon rush events because primal shards are generally worth a good amount of points. They're usually worth 200 points to a sacred shard's 500 points, but the primal shards generally run 3 to 350 compared to $20 for a sacred. So oftentimes you get more value out of buying a primal than you do out of buying a sacred as far as event points are concerned. Primal shards can be used for those events on occasion. Whether or not you want to save up for the 2x mythical or not is going to be ultimately a choice that you need to decide. On my main, I have so many mythicals at the moment, and honestly, some of them I can't book, and I'm struggling to finish to build them from a booking standpoint. I have occasionally decided it was okay for me to yeet a couple primals early. On an early game account, it's also not a horrible thing to yeet a couple primals early because the increased chance of an epic is very, very helpful. The increased chance of a legendary on a primal could be very, very helpful. And honestly, you're going to struggle to get books for a mythic as well. Honestly, I wouldn't be pulling tons of primals off of a non-2x mythical if you can. And as far as void shards and ancients, you're generally looking for a 2x. The only real exception for those is if you are close to mercy, then maybe you might want to pull during an event where you get a chance at another good champion that you've got to rate up on. Or for ancients, the 1+1 events, if I was, for example, in fact, on my free to play, I am somewhere within 30 shards of hitting mercy on my free to play, maybe 40, but I have enough to go all the way to 220 ancient shards, which means I will hit a guaranteed legendary. If they did a 1+1 event recently or very soon, I would probably pull off of a 2x on my free to play because I'm going to get 2 legendaries within those 40 shards. And the second I get that second legendary, I'm stopping. There are reasons to pull off of 2x events, but you want to be making sure that you are maximizing the chances to get something interesting and good on your account when you are pulling these shards. Outside of a very, very early game account where you are just so desperate for champions in general, maybe the first week or two, you might just be yeeting everything the moment you get it. But once you're outside of that very, very early window, and honestly, Raid has made it easier to, not worry about that very, very early window because you're getting better epics, better legendaries from things like the code that I have down below. Are you looking to join me and have fun playing Raid Shadow Legends? Well, I've got the link for you. Use my link down below and get yourself a free LNRL once you get through the tutorial. LNRL is a great Legendary, does a bunch of poisons, does irresistible burns, explodes those poisons, going to be very, very great for progressing in the early game, great for your clan boss team, will really, really help you out. And then at level 15, get yourself an Ugo. Ugo is absolutely amazing. She is one of the best endgame epics. She brings your block debuffs, she brings your decreased defense, she's got a heal and a cleanse, she's got leech on that A1, she is super tanky, she's got a chance to revive. Absolutely amazing epic for you. All you need to do is start a brand new account using a brand new fresh email and use my link down below. Get started in Raid and have some fun. Things like that, plus codes for like Monkey King, which is the Sun Wukong, or if Demon Slayer still works, get yourself a Tholan, who's a great champion. There's great ways to start off with a couple of legendaries and a couple of functional epics, in addition to your starter champion, who's generally usable for quite a while, and you have almost a full team for a lot of different content now. You know, maybe on the first week you're eating shards and then you ease off, or maybe you get lucky in a 10 pull of Ancients, you pull something really cool, and then you just kind of hold off and wait for the good events to make the most out of your shards. Skill books are another issue that people generally struggle with how they should spend them and who they should spend them on. As you can see, I have a bunch of rare and I have a bunch of epics. I'm running low-ish on my legendary books, and I don't have any mythical books at the moment. Now, my legendary books, I'm looking for champions that are going to be good to build, that are going to be impactful on my account. And to be fair, in some cases, I'm looking for champions that maybe I'm going to be doing a guide on, because I do like to do guides with champions that are booked when I can. And in some cases, they're not going to be fully booked. Like I did a Michelangelo guide recently, and he was almost fully booked, except for I saved a book on the A1. That's probably the first thing to talk about with these things. Look at these champions, look at their skills. For Mikey, for example, I wanted all three of these books, because this is 100% chance to place all these debuffs and a 1 turn in cooldowns, turning this to a 3-turn cooldown skill. That's big. Making this a 4-turn cooldown skill here as well is a very, very helpful thing. Is it a 4-turn or a 3-turn? I thought this was a 3-turn. Regardless, making this cooldown booked and this 100% huge for impact on the champion. On the other hand, these damage books are not bad. It's nice to have extra damage, especially on a champion who might be joining in on a bunch of extra attacks if you have all the turtles. But if I'm short on legendary books, these are 3 or 4 books that if I don't actually have to hit on them, I could save. So what I would do is if I'd put a book in here, all I needed 3 here and 3 here, I would just try to use 6 books and see what I hit. And if I have only, well, hey, I got all the way here and I need 1 more book here, then I'll just throw 1 more book in until either I've booked the champion fully or I've got the 2 skills that I care about and I'm not worried about the 3rd one. Lydia is actually an interesting and fun example. In fact, she's hanging out right here. You'll notice my Lydia is not fully booked on my main, and she has not been fully booked for years. Why? Because I decided that these 2 books here weren't important. So I actually booked her before she unlocked this skill, before I ascended her. So I was able to save those 2 books. I wanted the books on the A1 because I wanted that 100% chance for the fear. Definitely wanted the cooldowns and the 100% chance to place the buffs and debuffs on the Siren's Wail, and definitely wanted the 100% on this skill as well as the cooldown. She reads a lot. That's a lot of books. So if I can save 2 books, that's 2 books that I can use somewhere else on another champion that really does help my account. Now, when should you be using those books? Honestly, it's going to depend on how quickly you need to use a champion. If you are desperate to use a champion because you need them for something important and they need to be booked, then by all means throw those books in them. But, you know, not every time you're going to need that. You're not always going to be on a deadline, you know, and what I mean a deadline is perhaps maybe you are just pulled a champion and hey, look at this, it's Faction Wars time and this champion's going to help me beat Faction Wars or beat this stage or beat something important for me, but I only have for the today, and then that's locked again maybe for 2 weeks. Well then, maybe I might throw some books in them, throw some brews in them, run some masteries on them, do whatever I need to do to get them trained up enough to do the job, and spend as few as I can, but you know what, it is what it is. On the other hand, champion training tournaments are actually now a very good way to make use of books, because books are worth a ton of points in those. CVC is another great time to be using books as well. So if I am not waiting for one of those 2 events, then I might think about booking a champion just kind of whenever if they're going to do something important for me and I don't want to wait. But most of the time, a little bit of patience means I can get some additional rewards, like, for example, getting myself a book from the champion training tournament. So if we go over here to the old champion training tournament, now I know this one is done. As you can see here, I got all the way up to this legendary book right above me. It was 12,000 points. I did 13,000 1,000 points here, so I went a little bit over. I got some nice rewards here for coming in the top 10, but using books for this event got me another book. It also got me Fragments for Donnie and other stuff like that. So it gave me more back to do the booking during this event than it might have if I just randomly did it. CVC, another good option to do it because they are worth a good amount of CVC points. And if you have CVC and a champion training tournament at the same time, then you're golden. You're double dipping, you're triple dipping at that point in time because you're getting the book value and you're getting the champion training value and you're getting CVC value. Dungeons are another thing you always have to wonder when you're going to run them, when's the best time to run them, and where's the best time to focus. Well, sometimes if there's a good event dungeon running, and right now the Shredder event is going to get buffed and that particular event dungeon will actually be kind of interesting to run. Well, if there's no other events going on, then maybe the event dungeon is the one worth running. Or maybe this is a good time for you to hit the Minotaur's Labyrinth and get those scrolls on your champion so that you can improve them in every area of the game. Otherwise, hey, there's a Fire Knight tournament going on. Maybe it's a good time to run some Fire Knight. I can get some tournament rewards even if I'm not competing for it at any particular level, and I'm going to get some good Fire Knight gear, particularly because there is generally a 2x in a good gear set running at the same time. Same with Dragon. I don't want to run a lot of Dragon, but I can tell you I do run Dragon whenever there is a 2x or 3x speed. That is when I run Dragon, because speed gear is the most important part of Dragon, and it's honestly the only gear in Dragon that I find at an endgame account I use, and on my mid-game account, my free-to-play, well, that speed gear, super critical as well, and nothing else really comes close in the Dragon's Lair as well. Ice Golem, I don't run a lot of Ice Golem, but when there's an event, and if we're going to get a chance to get, say, Reflex gear, Cursed gear, Provoke gear, maybe even Retaliation, although I don't use a lot of Retaliation, but Reflex gear, pretty good, pretty usable. Cursed gear, I don't have a lot of champions in Cursed, but it's nice to get the best gear I can for the ones I do. Provoke gear has actually been very clutch in Faction Wars with the Provoke quests that you have in Faction Wars Hard, and can be very good for Hydra as well. So getting some great Provoke gear, very good. And honestly, even Provoke gear has some uses in Arena as well, because being able to provoke without having anybody having a chance to resist can be a very helpful thing in Arena, even if all you're doing is kind of hoping that a 30% RNG is better than nothing. So overall, you are waiting for the events and for the tournaments for running some of these things. But hey, if there's not one running, then pick whichever dungeon is going to make the most sense for you. It might be Spider, because maybe you need a little bit of silver, or maybe you need accessories badly. Maybe it'll end up being Fire Knight, because hey, I could use a little more Savage and I might as well run some Fire Knight. That's a good time to actually farm something like the Phantom Shogun or the Sand Devil's Necropolis. But don't sleep on those. We actually have some great events going on right here. In fact, if we go here to the Gear Ascension event, you can see I've already put a ton of energy into this event here because I can get a free Prism Shard out of this, which is going to give me at the very least a free Epic Champion, which will be 250 points towards the Champion Chase event going this weekend. And if I'm not going hard in that Champion Chase event, then it's nothing particularly exciting as far as points are concerned. But if that event decides to be something interesting, or I decide I'm going to be pulling my shards anyway, extra points gets me a chance to get better rewards in that Champion Chase event. And all it cost me was energy to farm something that I was probably going to be farming anyway, because I can tell you as an endgame account, these oils, these extracts, as well as the Chaos Dust and the Chaos Powder, they are super important for an endgame account. So that gives me a great excuse to farm the things that I need to farm anyway and get some cool stuff out of it. Heck, these Soul Stones, great rewards as well. An extra Ancient doesn't suck. A little bit of the Primal Quartz, not too bad. This is almost a full refill in gems, doesn't suck. Another Soul and Silver. Honestly, the Silver's trash. They need to do something about the Silver. That should be 1 million silver, not 100k silver. But regardless, decent amount of rewards for doing something I was probably going to do anyway. I'm going to climb up to this over the next 2 days because, this is worth a ton of investment for me. Maybe I'll even do well enough to place up and get some of these cool extra top-end rewards, but heck, there's even a chance I could get myself like 40 gems or 100 gems, and those are useful rewards and more useful resources on the account that I can then reinvest into the account later. One of the things to always watch is you've got Curse City and Doom Tower have their reset. Now, Dark Cafe is the best time to farm Doom Tower, so that's a good time to spend some time and effort investing in farming Doom Tower. But Curse City got lots of good, interesting rewards overall, worth generally farming. You don't necessarily have to go hard on it every day of the week, particularly because there's enough extra keys for you to at least get most of hard done and a good chunk of normal done. And if you don't finish all of normal, then you know what, that happens. I've done that occasionally on my main. It's not the worst scenario to miss some of the smaller rewards, but in general, Curse City's got some great rewards. It's worth investing in a little bit. Figuring out when to invest in some of those champions can be great. That's actually a good time for you to take a look. It's champ training. Hey, maybe I should look at some of these Curse City stages. Which ones am I stuck on? Maybe there's an epic that I haven't built that would actually be helpful for that faction. Hey, maybe there's an epic, there's a legendary that maybe I should book right now because I can get some extra value for booking them, and then they can help me in Curse City get some more stuff. You know, maybe in Doom Tower, I'm struggling with a particular secret room, so I can start checking some of the secret rooms to see, hey, are those secret rooms ones that maybe if I invested in a couple of champions or invested in some gear or did some other thing that I can do with the account, maybe I can actually get a little bit further and get some better rewards. So this is another thing to look for as far as what kind of resources you're going to be investing in, what kind of champions you're looking for, and when you might want to invest in these things. Curse City, because of its kind of wide open nature, you know, if I go in here into hard, well, I can take a look here. I've got a couple of keys left. Maybe I could fight and see if I could do some champion training here in some of these places and maybe earn this one. Or maybe I've tried and it's just not quite something I'm going to be able to do. You know, this one here, I might be able to do it. I might be able to not. A couple of invest a bit different champions. Maybe I might find a champion that would be absolutely amazing for this one as well. But for the most part, I think I've got a decent set here. I just haven't been able to make it work. So maybe it's just some time to work on the gear. And if I ultimately decide it's not worth the time and effort for me, that's fine too. That's another value judgment that you have to make. How much is your time and investing your time worth versus some of the rewards that are happening here in Raid, particularly at some of these very, very difficult levels of hard Centranos, or honestly, maybe you're looking at, as I've talked before about the Hydra Clash and the Chimera Clash, how I really don't care for those, and I think they are problematic. And to be fair, I've seen several other CCs kind of harp in on that a bit as well, so it is definitely not just my sentiment that these are not the best parts of the game, but if they are parts that you enjoy and you like the rewards for them, or even if you don't like the rewards and you just like doing them and they make you happy, then by all means, choose to invest your time in Chimera Clash or Hydra Clash. It is ultimately up to you, but time is a resource just like your own effort and your resources in the game here. And finally, we're going to talk about money. Now, this is probably not the shop you want to be talking about with money, so we can go like over here. There are packs that are worth buying, and there are packs that are not worth buying, and that's fine. Finding packs that are worth buying can be a great way to spend money in the game if you're looking for it. And if you're picky and you watch the packs and you only grab the packs that are the highest value packs, then hey, that's a great way to make the most of your money. In some level, you might be also looking for, hey, I need this specific resource. I'm short on books, for example, or I'm short on chickens, or I'm short on shards, obviously, or I'm short on energy and gems. Looking at those, figuring out which ones are the right ones to purchase can be a great way to figure out where you're going to spend some of your resources. And you'll be able to spend your money wiser if you set your budgets, you set your goals, you know what you're on the lookout for, and you go through those budgets and pick what you think is going to be best for your account. The other thing that's nice about that is just because you buy shards today, for example, doesn't mean you have to pull those shards today. If I were to buy this pack, for example, which is an okay pack, the monthly packs are not horrible. If you're going to buy shards, it's not one of the worst packs out there. It's not great, but you're getting some energy, you're getting some good amount of gems from it as well, and you get a sacred shard, a couple voids, a couple ancients. There are worse packs out there. There are better packs out there. I'm not necessarily saying this is good advice or bad advice. I've generally found that this is one of the packs that I don't mind spending on occasionally if I'm going to spend on a pack like this. I haven't bought it also for about a year and a half or 2 years either. You know, take of that what you will. You're looking for these shards. Well, I'm not necessarily going to yeet all these shards the moment I buy them. I'm still going to save them for a special event. And it might be a special event where I'm pulling shards for a guaranteed champion, or it might be a 2x of whatever type of shard I happen to be using. Keep in mind, you can sometimes save up these shard packs and then have a bunch of shards to pull when it is much more impactful for your account, such as, say, a 10x for a champion you want, or it is a 2x in general, or coming up, I suspect we're going to have guaranteed events for Leonardo and Raphael, and possibly April as well. So if you're interested in some of those special champions that we think we're going to have a guaranteed for, but it doesn't even have to be one of these special champions. We've had all kinds of champions that have had guaranteed events for them if you happen to have had the resources saved up, or you decide to spend a little bit on that particular resource. So, keeping in mind when you use your wallet and where you use your wallet. And I've got a video talking about that with Rock. It's probably going to come out a little bit before this one, so go check that one out as well. Your wallet is a resource. Don't just spend willy-nilly. Be wise, make reasonable picks, look for the right deals that fit your wallet, your budget, and your account, and then make sure you're still using those resources when it's best to use those resources. So there we go. In a nutshell, there's the joke about wait Shadow Legends, where you're often waiting for the time to use what you're going to do or do the things you'd like to do on your account. And to some extent, that is true. You have to weigh how much it is worth for you to wait for something better versus the opportunity for you to do something now. Sometimes that means you're going to sit on something longer than you might like, and sometimes that means you're going to be spending resources at times that are not ideal, but you need to because it fits another timeline or does some other thing in your account that you feel is more important. It is a value judgment. I can give you general guidelines for wait for events and tournaments, especially wait for fusions whenever you can, wait for events where you can weigh the consequences of the resources you're going to spend versus what potential gain you have, especially if you do well in that particular event. And I don't mean by shard pulling, but again, even then, making the most of your shard pulls, playing the mathematical chances is still a better way to go, because over the long haul, playing those mathematical chances is going to give you the best overall result with those shards. So hopefully you found this interesting. Hopefully you found this entertaining. I really do appreciate you guys. You guys are absolutely amazing. Some of the best community in Raid. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. Let me know down below, what do you think about this type of video? What do you think about when you save your resources? Any tips that you think maybe I didn't hit? Or perhaps maybe you agree with everything? Just let me know down there as well. Or hey, maybe you actually noticed the fact that I got a haircut today. Let me know down below what you think of my hair. I probably lost about 1.5 pounds of hair. It was a lot of hair to get rid of, and I feel so much better for it. So anyway, I appreciate you guys. You guys are absolutely amazing. Have a wonderful day, and until the next video, I am Bront CatHerder.